All right, before we get to a couple of Saturday games, let's tell you what we have going on. We'll start with you, Jeff. You're on a 17-7 run in the NFL. In fact, your high roller blockbuster players going back to last year, 13-3, and that included the Colts with a one-sided winner Sunday.
Yeah, and last week on the show, my best ever was Kansas State. I won that one. I won the last 5 baseball games. I won the league championship series. I won the last 5 games. And if you want to call LVSS, you can buy by the week, season, or week, month, or season. You can, and you also get a free pick every day. You call LVSS at 1-866-575-8916, 1-866-575-8916, and also go to jimfeist.com. I have another free pack this weekend. So jimfeist.com, look for LVSS, and then call LVSS at 1-866-575-8916.
Or you can find his plays at jimfeist.com, and Jim Feist himself off a terrific weekend of 14-2 with all football players, including 8-1 on Sunday in the NFL. Hit another third straight high roller release online. That was the Kansas City Chiefs. He's a perfect 3-0 with college football games of the month. There's going to be another one available for Saturday, as well as a high roller play. Plus, he is an early NFL division dominator. That's the Thursday game. All this and more available at jimfeist.com. All right, let's get to a Saturday SEC game against South Carolina playing at Auburn. I had to look twice when I saw this opening number here, 16.5 on Auburn, up to 17.5. Boy, should we call this the Rodney Dangerfield Bowl? As there's no respect at all for Steve Spurrier in this one from odds makers. Kind of an SEC showdown here. Auburn 2-1. South Carolina struggling, 4-3 record, but boy, they're not covering any games. Nothing wrong with the Gamecock offense. Dylan Thompson is a senior, 15 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. They're moving the ball through the air and on the ground with junior running back Mike Davis heating it up. But boy, this defense has struggled all year. 32 points per game. That's 98th in the country. Texas A&M had 680 yards on them. East Carolina 453. Last week's game, Furman had 211 yards rushing. Georgia Bulldogs had over 408 total yards. So, Sean, they're not getting any respect. South Carolina is from odds makers. Do they deserve it?
Well, earlier in the show, we kind of mentioned this whole thing with South Carolina and Steve Spurrier, and we were talking about the surprise element. When you sent me over a note telling me we were going to talk about this game, I almost called you back and said, why? Do you know what the title I have to this game is? How the Mighty Have Fallen, which is the case. South Carolina has not been a plus 17 dog in 5 years. And in the Spurrier tenure, which I think Jeff's about 10 years, they've been a 17-point underdog or more 5 times. They're 0-5 straight up in that roll, but they did cover 4 of them. This year, and we've already kind of mentioned this, South Carolina 4-3 straight up, 1-6 against the number. They're 0-4 against the number in their last 4. And you're right, South Carolina has no D. They can put up points, but they just can't stop anybody. They haven't played Auburn since 2011, and Spurrier 0-5, 1-4 against the number versus Auburn as far back as you want to go, which I think is 2005. Auburn 5-1, but just 3-3 against the bookie, and I think this last game maybe just took the heart out of them. They just lost at Mississippi State as a road favorite at 3. That was last week, and I don't really see any reason why Auburn has to play here. First of all, this is a conference game, not a divisional game. They're not going to catch Mississippi or Mississippi State. But you always tend to show off for Spurrier games and maybe play for a decent bowl game. But coming off that Mississippi State loss, I don't know, that may leave them flat. Auburn had the miracle team last year, and maybe that's it. It's over with. And if you look at the time of the game, it's 9 a.m. in Pacific time. It's 12 noon. And the only TV station that's covering this game is that SEC network. It's a toss-up here. If I have to, I'll take 17 points with Spurrier because at least in his tenure, he has covered 4 of the 5 times he's gotten that many points. But other than that, nobody cares about this game. Neither one of these teams are going anywhere. Auburn might play for a better bowl, but that would be it. After that Mississippi State loss, they're pretty much done. So, if you have to, take the points.
Well, this Auburn rushing attack, number 1 in the nation, 328 yards per game. They do come off the bye, which you mentioned, but boy, that was off of their first loss against Mississippi State. Gave up 469 yards, 38 points. So a very tough kick in the stomach for a team that was in the national title game last year. So, Jeff, are they primed for bounce back, or is this too big a betting number?
I think it's too big a betting number. I'm like Sean. I wouldn't touch this game. Obviously, the loss of Jadeveon and Clowney and Kelsey Quarles was on the defensive line has been too much to overcome for South Carolina. They're allowing 32.2 points per game, which was about 98th in the country. They had a defensive meltdown in the fourth quarter against Missouri, cost them the game, and they lost 45-38 at Kentucky. But the offense hasn't been a problem. They have a great offensive line. Quarterback Dylan Thompson is thrown for 15 TDs. Brandon Wiles and Mike Davis combined for more than 5 yards per carry. This is the first time Spurrier were faced against Mausden's Auburn offense. The Tigers coming off their first loss of the season at Mississippi State. Defense is much improved for Auburn this year. Before that Miss State game, they had been allowing only 14.4 points per game. They're giving up only 3.3 yards per carry while averaging 5.6 yards themselves. Cameron Artis-Payne is averaging at 111 yards per game. Quarterback Nick Marshall is completing only 55% of his passes, and he's thrown 10 TDs with 3 interceptions. Yeah, this is just a game. I would not bet this game because Auburn could get a front door cover, South Carolina get a back door cover. You just never know. So I'll pass on this game, John.
Maybe we should ask Mr. Cranton why we are talking about this game.
No, you guys are pussyfooting around on me.
Hey, we're going to let you have it when you need it.
Maybe taking the Gamecocks, but I'll take a stronger stand on
Whoa.
South Carolina. I'll put my foot down here. South Carolina is the play.
Pedal to the metal.
Yeah, they have great offense, which we talked about. They were supposed to come into the season have the best offensive line that Spurrier has ever had, and there's nothing wrong with this ground game. So they got plenty of offensive punch. And when they are off a win of 20 or more points, South Carolina 18-7-1 against the spread. The Auburn defense is much improved, but that was the weak link a year ago. And then the last game, 469 yards to Mississippi State. So I still have some question marks about the secondary for Auburn. So I think it's too big a number. It'll probably be a 7 to 10 point game. So I will back South Carolina in this one.